So this has been my breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the past 5 days. Let me explain. You like what I did here with the little YouTube fireplace on the TV? I've got a big light right here, and if I had the TV off, then you could see the reflection of the light, and it was just really ugly and harsh and kind of stupid. But anyway, that's completely irrelevant. For those of you who don't know, just 5 days ago, which was Monday, because today, recording this, is Saturday, I had a sleeve gastrectomy, also known as a gastric sleeve, which is a bariatric weight loss surgery. And I have had so many people who have reached out in support, who have asked questions, who have checked on me, so on and so forth. So I kind of wanted to just sit down and make a little video about my journey thus far and my plans for the future going forward. So this is going to be kind of a long and probably boring video, so I don't blame you if you don't feel like sitting and watching it, but if you do take the time to sit here and watch it, I greatly appreciate it, and I kind of want to just bring you through the journey because hopefully this will maybe help somebody else out who is thinking about doing the same or struggles with some of the same things or, whatever the case is. So hopefully this video can help somebody out. So boring as it may be, I do appreciate you for sitting here and bearing with me. So let me bring this all the way back. Essentially, since basically as a child, I can remember being the big kid, right? Like I was always bigger. I was chubby, fat, obese, overweight, whatever you want to call it. I was definitely a bigger kid. I don't really remember this affecting me too much as a child and even really like into my teen years, because even though I was always the big guy or a bigger guy, like I still had a very active social life. I was still a very active person. I played tons of sports. I was out and about all the time. And one of the things that I would always kind of like fall back on, which I'm now realizing as an adult was really just an excuse, would be that like, oh, but I can totally like run around and hang out with all my skinny friends, right? Like I can keep up with them on a basketball court, or, I've got the same stamina as them, or whatever the case is. And while that was true, that was excusing a lot of the poor behaviors that I had and kind of just enabling myself and allowing that to grow and continue to get to the point where it is now. So looking back, I really wish that I hadn't done that. But like I said, I kind of wanted to take you from start to finish on my journey thus far and, explain a little bit about how I got here. So as a kid, I mostly lived with my grandparents, and they definitely made like home cooked meals pretty much every single night. Granted, they're old school Italians, so it was a lot of pasta. It was a lot of like starch and carbs, tons of meat. They made vegetables. They honestly made pretty balanced meals, but, they didn't necessarily enforce for me to eat well, and I did a horrible job of doing so myself. So all throughout my adolescence, my teenage years, into my young adult life, like I have just had a horrible relationship with food and eating terrible foods, like constantly just eating junk food, drinking soda, which has really been probably my biggest problem of them all, has been the soda. But just awful, awful eating habits for honestly longer than I can remember. Like I never remember a time in my life where I really ate healthy. Like I have just always been an unhealthy eater, and that's all I've ever known. And being around my mother a lot, that didn't help either. For those of you who know me, like the situation with my mother is long and complex, but long story short, she had a lot of her own issues before she died, and a lot of that was kind of pushed on us in the way that she raised us. So again, unhealthy, junky, shitty foods was just what I knew all throughout my life. Now, I will die on this hill. I firmly believe that you can't blame people for the habits or the traumas or whatever that they have from childhood that they couldn't control. But I will always say, and this applies very much to my own self, that when you become an adult, it is up to you to do something about that, to take charge of it and either get help, change your life, whatever the case is. And I never did that up until now. This is the first time I feel like I've actually tried to take back control of my health, but for so much of my adult life, I just kept falling back on those same excuses. Oh, well, I don't cook healthy because I'm always on the go and I'm running around so much and I don't have the time, and healthy food is expensive and shittier food is so much cheaper and blah, 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 blah. While I thought that those things were justifying why I never got help, really all they did was enable me to continue getting worse and worse, and they were just excuses. Like, those are not valid reasons as an adult to not eat healthy. And I'm realizing that now, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. So yeah, that's a kind of a short and condensed version of how I got from childhood to adulthood. And now I'm going to tell you when and how I started to think about addressing this in the way which I currently have, and why it took so long to get here in the first place. So it all kind of started with my sister Lexi. She actually got this same surgery, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago now. and it has completely changed her life. She has become a much healthier person overall. It's, and that's the same for pretty much anybody I know who's gotten this surgery, is that it completely overhauls your life. You get a much better quality of life. You're going to live longer. You're going to be healthier, all those things, right? So I already knew about the surgery, specifically from my sister having gotten it and seeing firsthand the results that she had. And it got me thinking like, wow, maybe I should do something like that. And for the first year or two after she got it, it was really just like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. And then in 2020, late 2020, when the pandemic had rolled around, that was the first time I actually was serious about it. And I was like, you know what? Let me call the doctor and make an appointment and start the process. So I did. I called Dr. Weiss at the time, who's no longer there, over at Tri-State Bariatric, which is the doctor who did my sister's surgery. And I said, hey, I'd like to meet with you. I'm thinking about getting bariatric surgery. Let's talk. And we did. I met with the doctor and I got the process underway, I want to say late 2020. And I started to go through the steps. So for those of you who don't know or are considering getting this surgery, be mindful that it is a lot of work to even get your surgery scheduled, which actually is the thing that was the most appealing to me. My problem is that when it's up to me to hold myself accountable and to develop a life and structure that's healthy for me just on my own, considering all the things that I've already previously established and all these bad habits I've already had, I just couldn't do it. Honestly, I just didn't do it and couldn't do it. But knowing that there was a strict and rigid guideline to follow and that there were so many steps and that it is such a commitment to even get here, that's the thing that actually made me be like, you know what? Yeah, hell yeah, I could definitely do this. So I kept chugging along and getting through clearance after clearance after clearance. And after about 5 or 6 months, I had gotten all of my pre-op clearances. And by pre-op clearances, I mean before you can even get your surgery scheduled, you have to be cleared by a heart doctor, a lung doctor, a mental health doctor, your primary care doctor, a GI doctor. Like there's a ton of different specialists that you have to get approved by, and you have to meet with a nutritionist, go to support groups. It's a big commitment. Honestly, so worth it. But it is a big commitment, so please keep that in mind if you are someone who's considering getting this surgery. So late 2020 into early 2021, I had gone through almost all of the steps, and then something happened. I had abruptly left the job that I was at because it was just doing way too much harm to my mental health. But leaving the job also meant that I lost my health insurance. So at this point, I've gotten through pretty much every single clearance that you need to get through, all the way up to like the last appointment before scheduling the surgery. And then I leave my job and I lose my insurance. Now, I had another job to go to before I left the one that I was at, so it was a pretty quick transition, but the other job that I went to didn't have health insurance. They did not offer health insurance. It was a startup, so like that just wasn't part of it, which was fine. I left because I needed to have more freedom and less stress in my life for my mental health, but the cost of that was losing my insurance and thus losing the process and the progress that I had put all that work into for 5 or 6 months. And after that, the process basically just fizzled out. I didn't have health insurance again for several years after that when I got to the job where I currently am. And because of that, the process just died. And you have to have, your clearances are only good for so long. So even if I had tried to go back, it was too late and I would have had to restart the process all over again, which is basically what I did. So boom, let's recap. All my life, terrible, shitty habits, always a chubby fat kid. As an adult, I decided I want to do something about it, start to do something about it, almost did something about it, didn't do something about it. And then another 3 years goes by and I just keep putting it off and off and off. And even when I had gotten health insurance, it's not like I immediately was like, oh, let me go right back to it. Great opportunity, which is what I should have done, by the way. Instead of doing that, I just kept putting it off and I was like, I'll get to it, I'll do it. Thank God I actually did do it. But for a while there, it looked like I probably wouldn't. So just to provide some context as to how bad my health has been, when I went back in 2020, my weight was around 350, which is already morbidly obese. Like that's just terrible. Nobody should ever be at that weight. Very unhealthy, clearly. So yeah, at that point in time, I was 350 pounds. Now fast forward to spring of last year, 2024, and my buddy JP and I were talking a lot about the surgery. He's in a very similar position that I am. Same thing, weight issues, quality of life issues, health issues, etc. And we had both talked about it. And the thing is, both of us had had success in the past with like losing weight and being healthy and stuff like that. But the problem for both of us really was that we could never sustain it. And we would get better and then just fall off the wagon. So we were in a very similar spot, the two of us, and we had a lot of conversations. And he was like, "Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go and do the surgery. He's had friends and family who have had success with it, similarly to me. And so we started to have the conversation, and then he finally just went and made an appointment. And let me tell you something, whenever you are trying to achieve something, especially something that is difficult or life-changing or whatever, like how this has been for me, when you've got somebody right alongside you, kind of going on the same path at a very, very similar pace, that makes everything a lot easier. It is much easier to be motivated and stay accountable and all of that. So first and foremost, I have to absolutely thank not only my sister for being somebody to lean on throughout this process, but also JP, like just immense gratitude, because even as it stands today, now just a few days after my surgery, and from here going forward, he has been just an excellent support system, has offered guidance, motivation, and seeing him do it and how well he's done. And let me tell you something. I won't tell you exactly how he's doing because that's not my business to do that, but he's doing pretty fucking good. So considering how well he's doing, that has been a very big motivator for me to basically be able to see a few months into the future and say, oh, that's where I'm gonna be at? So yeah, huge shout out to JP. Eternally grateful to him for all of his support. So that being said, he started the process, and he's, I want to say, about somewhere between 4 and 6 months ahead of where I am. So basically, whenever he first had his appointment, mine was about 4 to 6 months after that. And the primary reason was because I was getting a new insurance, actually, a much better health insurance, thank God, because let me tell you something also, this shit is expensive. Like, very expensive. Even if you have really good health insurance like how I do, it is expensive. But guess what? You know what else is expensive? This camera I'm recording on, and all these electronics in my room, and all the stupid junk food and bullshit that I've spent money on all throughout the years, that's also expensive. So in my mind, I'm like, at least I'm spending money and investing in something as well as my health. Like, this is for me. This is for literally the future of my life. I want to be a healthier person, so I'm totally fine with spending this money. To me, it is so beyond worth it. I would put whatever price tag is on it, I would pay it. That's how important and meaningful this decision has been to me. So my new better insurance kicked in August 1st of last year. So that's when I began the process. And on August 1st, I went to see my primary doctor. And on September, I think 3rd, I had my first appointment with the bariatric surgeon. But in August, that was the first time I'd gone to a doctor in a while. And let me tell you something. Don't be like me, okay? Go to the doctor routinely, especially as you get older. I mean, I know I'm only 30, but like, damn, as you get older, go to the doctor regularly. Check on yourself, monitor your health. When I went in August, I found out I was diabetic. I had no idea. My A1C was like 7, which puts me officially as a diabetic, and they put me on metformin, which is a medication for diabetes, and I was like, whoa. I literally had no idea. I'm like, damn, not surprised at all, especially because I have a family history of it, so I should have seen that coming. But I was like, wow, this whole time I just never knew, and like, thank God I've at least started going to the doctor. And to provide more context, on August 1st, when I went to the doctor for the first time in a long time, I weighed in at 417 pounds. 417 pounds. I don't think I need to explain to you how fucking bad that is. So yeah, mind you, 417, that number, which I will never forget, and I soon plan to get tattooed on me, that is and forever will be, I promise you as I sit here and look into this camera, that is and forever will be by far the heaviest I will be in my entire life. 417, my max weight I've ever been. That's how bad it was just as recently as August of last year. So here we are. It's August, primary care doctor. I'm 417 pounds. I have diabetes now, amongst other things like some high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that. So to be honest with you, I'm scared. I'm a little scared at this point, but I'm glad because for whatever reason, particularly when it comes to my health, like when I'm scared or worried or when I feel like there's something that literally has to be done and it's not just up to me, like I have to do it or else X, Y, and Z is going to happen. For whatever reason, that's when I respond better. And so I'm actually glad about that because immediately after that, I started to do a little bit better. I started to decrease my salt intake a little bit. My sugar, I was monitoring it. I still monitor it to this day. My sugar has been pretty good. So my sugar intake, which up to this point has still been terrible, but better, right? So progress, baby steps. But because of learning all of that, I started to really take my health more seriously. And because of going to all these specialists throughout this process, I've learned a lot more about my health and learned more about how to take care of myself. So basically from September 1st of meeting with the surgeon, which at this point was Dr. Rivera, because Dr. Weiss, who I had seen, the 4 years prior, he's no longer there. So Dr. Rivera, who did my surgery, He was the one who I met with, and I started the process on around September 3rd. And my surgery was February 3rd. So basically from September to February, which is 5 months. So 5 months basically from start to finish, which both was a long time and went by quickly. But yeah, so 5 months essentially from start to surgery was how long it took for me. Granted, that also completely depends on your surgeon, all the specialists that you're going to see, your insurance. There's a lot of different factors, but I think on average, it usually takes like 3 to 6-ish months, at least for most of the people that I know who have done it. So I basically spent the summertime just hammering away at these appointments, going to each one, getting my clearances, meeting with the surgeon, so on and so forth through the winter. And that brings us up to January. Now, because I had gone through this whole process before, and because I had JP going through it, and I've had friends and family who have done it, it really was not uncharted territory for me. Like pretty much everything up to scheduling the surgery was something I had already gone through. So a lot of that was kind of just like, checking off the boxes. Like, all right, cool, get this clearance, get that clearance, and everything like that. And I remember distinctly, it was sometime in January when I officially got the call that the insurance had approved the surgery, which for some reason in my mind, I'm like, what if they don't approve it? Or what if it doesn't happen? Like something like that. So I essentially just didn't allow myself to get excited about it until I received that call. And then once I did, huge sigh of relief. I was like, thank God, okay, at least we've gotten approved. And from that point, it was basically like, so I went to the doctor on like a Monday, and they were like, okay, we're going to submit the insurance for approval. The approval came through like 3 days later, and then within like another 4 or 5 days after that, I met with the surgeon. So the end of this process happens quick. It's like, meet with the nurse practitioner, send it off for insurance, insurance approves it, meet with the surgeon, schedule your surgery. And even from there, when I met with the surgeon, which was on a Thursday, I think it was the second to last Thursday of January, I want to say, maybe the 16th, something like that. I met with the surgeon, and he was like, okay, so we're going to get you on for surgery. You're good for Monday, February 3rd. And I'm like, oh shit, like that's soon. That's 2.5 weeks from now. I didn't expect it to happen that quick. I was very excited and very anxious. A lot of people have asked me about this throughout the process, like not scared at all. In fact, I'm so terrible because like during surgery, I'm texting people and I'm like, imagine I just die on the table. Like I have very bad dark humor, but I had no fear at all about like the surgery because honestly, I'm like, if something goes wrong, something goes wrong. Like, and nothing I can do about that. Like this is the only option because this life I've been living is the alternative. So as far as I'm concerned, knock me out and cut me up. I don't care how that goes. I wasn't worried about that. I was just more so anxious. I just wanted the day to finally get here. So leading up to the surgery was really just a lot of anxiety and excitement. There's a couple more appointments you have to do in that small window, like going down to the hospital for pre-op clearance. They check your blood and ask you some questions and stuff like that. Meeting with the nurse practitioner one more time just to make sure you're all set. And then, then you get to the day before surgery. And the day before surgery, you pretty much have to be on a liquids only diet. So basically protein shakes and liquids, clear liquids, which is like, water, tea, broth, Gatorade Zero, stuff like that. That's all you can have the day before. So the day before, which is Sunday, I was on a liquid diet. So the day before that, Saturday, which is now 1 week ago, was the last time I actually had any solid food in my body. And I thought that the day before would be really hard because obviously I haven't had the surgery. My stomach and lifestyle is still as it is, and I'm used to what I'm used to. And I thought, holy shit, a whole day with no food is going to suck. It honestly was really not that terrible. Like, it wasn't that bad. Whatever. Like, yes, I was hungry by the end of the day, but who cares? I was just excited that the surgery was happening tomorrow. So now we get to this past Monday, February 3rd, which is when I actually had the surgery. Now, they weigh you right before you go into surgery, and obviously I get weighed at my appointments all throughout. And what had happened was I was kind of ebbing and flowing a little bit. Like, I had definitely lost weight, but I was ebbing and flowing a little bit, leading up to it. But as of Monday, this past Monday, February 3rd, going into surgery, I was 395 pounds. So from August 1st to February 3rd, I did at least lose 22 pounds, which is something, and that's good. And also, by the way, most insurances and most doctors, even if they don't require it, they definitely want you to start losing weight beforehand because they want you to get into some of these habits so that when the surgery happens, it's not just a complete 180 and all of a sudden you're slammed with this new lifestyle. You're doing things to lead up to it. So like I had been having a protein shake in the morning each day, like the week before leading up to it, and obviously trying to just change some of those habits. And to be honest with you, I definitely did not do as well as I could have. I wish that I did better. I feel very confident right now going forward But definitely, I would recommend to anybody out there who's going to try this to probably put in a lot more effort into preparing for this new lifestyle in the months leading up to it than I did. But yeah, so Monday, I go in for surgery. The surgery is laparoscopic, which means they just make a couple small incisions on your stomach, and then they go in there with these little robot arms and do all this crazy stuff. And basically, they cut out 70% of your stomach, 70 to 80% of your stomach, I think. And also a large part of that, the piece that they're cutting out, is the part of your stomach that's responsible for appetite. And I'll get to a lot of that in a minute. But yeah, so that's kind of it. It's like a kind of minimally invasive surgery. Again, few incisions. They go in with their tools and stuff like that. Also, I had the day before, I watched a sleeve gastrectomy surgery on YouTube. I'm very fascinated by this stuff. It didn't make me any more nervous or anything like that at all. I was just very fascinated, and I wanted to know like what the hell they're about to do to me. So I thought it was great. If you're somebody who you think would get nervous by that, don't do that, okay? But I did it, and I'll tell you something. The coolest part about it, at least I thought this was really cool, is that the tool that they use to literally cut the stomach, like it simultaneously staples it at the same time. So as it's cutting, it's also stapling the cut and basically like repairing the wound in that way, which I don't know. I just thought that was super cool. Maybe I'm just weird, but I thought that was dope. So yeah, I get in there, I go under around like 11 a.m. I think the surgery from start to finish was somewhere around like 3 hours. And then immediately after surgery, I remember like I had so many friends and family that were texting me and calling me, like wondering what the hell was going on, because they all knew it wasn't supposed to be more than a few hours, but I didn't get back to people till like 5 or 6 at night because the anesthesia just had me so on my ass that I was just in and out of consciousness basically for like, I got out of surgery at 2, and for like the, 2 to 4 hours after that, I was just like in and out of consciousness, had no idea what was going on, just trying to stay awake. And my phone wasn't even near me. It was in my bag, which was like in the corner or something like that. And I'm just sitting there, and like people are calling me and texting me. And I only had the doctor call my grandmother because she's my emergency contact. So she was the only one who actually got the call. So my like immediate family knew, but friends of mine were like reaching out to them and stuff like that. So if you're watching this and you're one of those people who didn't hear back from me until like 5 or 6 or 11 o'clock at night, sorry I scared you, but I survived, obviously. But yeah, so basically, immediately after surgery, you're just very loopy and tired from the anesthesia. They start by giving you ice chips, like literally just little chips of ice that you slowly chew on. And what happens immediately after is basically you're supposed to have 1 ounce of water, which, hold on a second. This is 1 ounce. This is 1 ounce of water, 30 milliliters, 1 ounce of water in this teeny tiny little cup, which I took a ton of from the hospital, by the way. So yeah, 1 ounce that you're supposed to have every 20 minutes. And that does not mean taking a little shot of water every 20 minutes. That means you're supposed to slowly sip down on this every 20 minutes for, however long you can, basically. So immediately after surgery, between the little bits of ice chips and the very tiny bit of water, that's essentially all that you're getting. And that was really all it was for that entire first day leading into the evening time in the hospital. You're only there overnight for 1 night, thank God, because let me tell you, I fucking hate being in the hospital. People who have to be in the hospital for several like days, weeks, or months, I genuinely, my heart goes out to you. I don't know how you do it. I could barely hang on for 1 night. I was ready to jump out the window. But yes, luckily, you are only actually in the hospital overnight for 1 night. Again, the recovery, there's like several phases and stuff to it, which I'll get to in a second. But the actual physical recovery, at least for me so far, has really been not bad. Like that night in the hospital was just a lot of like napping and sipping. That's basically all it was napping and sipping. They're coming in and checking my vitals and stuff like that. It was hard for me to sleep and things like that. And around like 11 o'clock at night, I finally really felt coherent, but I was restless and I could not sleep. So what I did was I got up and just walked a couple laps around the nurse's bay, which is good. They want you to actually get up like that same night or the very next day and be up and about and moving around, especially because it'll help with the gas. And let me tell you, there will be gas. And so far for me, that's been the worst part of it. The gas has been terrible at times. So the next day they come in, they start bringing me a couple different fluids, like some decaffeinated tea, some Gatorade Zero, a little bit of Crystal Light, stuff like that. And then next thing you know, by 1 o'clock, I'm discharged. So I went in for surgery around 11 a.m. Monday, and I was out of the hospital by 1 p.m. on Tuesday. Very, very quick, in and out type of thing. Oh, and for those of you wondering, I'll show you real quick. So in a second, I'm going to show you my little incisions, which are bandaged right now. And it's not really grotesque or anything like that, but just a little trigger warning in case that kind of stuff bothers you. But I will show you what the incisions look like on me right now. So that's it, basically. There are, wait, hold on. One, two, three, four, and then this one up here. Five tiny incisions. And that's it. Like, they somehow get in there with these tools and remove 70% of your stomach through just those 5 little cuts. Now, I will say, so far, I haven't really had any bruising, no leakage, nothing like that. And actually, my abdominal pain has been extremely minimal. Like, very, very minimal. Honestly, that's, like, to the touch, it's a little painful, but that's about it. Like, I really don't feel much abdominal pain. Again, it's different for everybody. I know a lot of people who have a lot of bruising by 4 or 5 days in. I'm 5 days in, and I have really no bruising at all yet. So that part has been fine for me. There's been a little bit of nausea. They do give you medication for it. I've taken it maybe twice so far this week when I got really nauseous, but I haven't vomited. And the gas has really been the only thing that's kind of kicked my ass. And it's not like a constant ongoing thing. It's like, it's something that'll happen maybe depending on how you're moving, or like it'll just arise and you'll get some gas and it'll feel like you're getting punched in the stomach for a few seconds and then it'll subside. It definitely helps if you can burp or pass gas, or if you get up and move around. All of that stuff helps. But yeah, so far the gas has really been the only thing that's been like kind of painful and difficult for me, and the nausea has made me a little uncomfortable. But other than that, honestly, like, I have to say, knock on wood, I've been healing as, like, I couldn't have asked for a better healing process. It's going as good as it can possibly be going for me up to this point. So boom, here we are, Saturday. Up to this point, I've basically been on, again, clear liquids, which is actually not as bad as it sounds, because it's more things than just water, which is what I initially kind of thought. So like I mentioned before, it's water, it's unsweetened, decaffeinated tea, it's Gatorade or Powerade Zero, it's broths. You can also have like a sugar-free ice pop once a day. There's a lot of different things that you can actually get to. It's not like you're literally just drinking water. You're supposed to try to hit a goal of 64 fluid ounces, which I've done pretty well of this week, and I feel pretty good about it. They tell you if you don't have a bowel movement within 3 days of surgery to take some milk of magnesia. Now, let me tell you some little TMI right here, but your boy be shitting, okay? Like, leading up to this, I was like, literally like 6 to 10 times a day, okay? So I hadn't gone from, the last time I had went was Monday morning, the morning of surgery, and then I didn't go again until Wednesday morning. And let me tell you something, that 2 days, clear and far, the longest I've ever gone in my whole life without shitting, all right? And it felt great. It was so nice to not be in and out of the bathroom all day for 2 whole days. And then Wednesday, I had a regular bowel movement, and I've gone like once or twice a day since then, which is normal and feels awesome. Side note, that's one of like the benefits that I'm very much looking forward to having, is not being in and out of the bathroom so much, because my diet is absolutely trash. So yeah, just wanted to include that because that is pertinent information. You're gonna have to monitor whether or not you have bowel movements and stuff like that. So for me, it's been once a day now since Wednesday, once to twice a day. So normal, thank God. And other than that, everything else is going pretty much as well as it can. I've still been tired, obviously without having any kind of solid foods, even though I started my shakes today, which I'll get to in a second. Like, your energy is going to be low just because, you're healing. You're not supposed to drive for a few days, but I finally got out and about yesterday and today. But today was the first day where it really felt like, okay, I feel like I'm kind of like a little bit more back to normal, still very tired, but like able to drive, able to sit here and work on my computer or play games or whatever the case is. So, the recovery process is not super difficult. You just have to really stay on course with the different phases. The first phase, or phase 0, is essentially just that liquid, clear liquids diet, which is the first 5 days after surgery. And then you can start the protein shakes, which is what I started today. And that's basically you're supposed to have 3 protein shakes a day, or I guess it depends on the amount. You're supposed to have 90 grams of protein. So the shakes that I have are 30 grams. I'm supposed to have 3 of those shakes. So 3 shakes a day, plus, liquids and stuff like that. And this will last 2 weeks. Then I get to phase 2, which is the, pureed foods and stuff like that. And then you get into like soft food, and then 2 weeks after that, you get into regular solid food. So basically, the first 6 weeks, you're really not having regular solid foods, which really sounds brutal, but the thing that I've been learning is that there are still a lot of great things along the way. Like once I get to like the pureed stuff and the soft stuff, like there are still things like sugar-free pudding or applesauce or scrambled eggs and things like that. There's still a lot of ways that you can still enjoy food. It's really kind of that first, 18 to 20 days of the clear liquids and the shakes. But once I get to the pureed food, and friends of mine have told me the same thing, it definitely starts to get easier, and obviously my energy will probably get closer to normal again, things like that. So that's kind of the plan, is basically 6 weeks essentially of no solid foods, and then you're back to it, and then that's where it all really begins, because now it's like your stomach is so much smaller and your appetite is so much less that you have to be extremely mindful of making sure you get the protein into your body that you need, and continuing to not eat shitty stuff, not eat junk food and fried foods and greasy stuff and things that are loaded with carbs and all that stuff, and being really mindful. But the 6 weeks in these, several phases, the whole goal of that, not only is it to help the healing process for your stomach and makes it much easier for your stomach to heal, but it also helps ease you back into food to the point where by the time you get there, it is a significantly easier choice to make to eat healthier than it was the weeks prior and your entire life leading up to the surgery. And let me tell you, the part about the appetite, right? Like, so they're taking so much of my stomach. I mean, literally like, most of my stomach, 70% of my stomach, 80% of my stomach is now gone. And the stomach is basically this small sleeve. That's why it's called the sleeve gastrectomy. And so the amount of food you can actually even tolerate is way less. And I'm already starting to notice that because, again, with no solid food for this past week now, I would have thought like, man, that's going to be really rough. I'm going to be so hungry. I really haven't. I don't feel hunger. I absolutely definitely want to quench my taste buds. Like, I miss the experience of eating food, probably more from a mental perspective because that's just what I'm used to. And not even shitty foods. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, I would kill for like some scrambled eggs right now, or like just some damn peanut butter or something, like just something to get into my body. And I'll get there, and that's fine. It really hasn't been that bad. I can tolerate that. But the actual physiological response of my stomach to hunger is it's completely different. I have really hardly felt hungry at all, honestly. Like, it's crazy how much different it is. The appetite is so much less, and that is one of the major advantages of getting this surgery. So yeah, that's pretty much the long of it up to this point. And now for my plan going forward, the goal is basically just to have a better quality of life and take control of my health. My mother, as many of you know who know me, passed away a few years ago, and she was 47 or 48. She died very young. And she absolutely did not take care of herself. She ate terribly, she smoked, she did drugs, she did a lot of things that were not good for her body, and I'm sure a lot of that bled into her children, which is why a lot of us are obese and have these health problems and things like that. Again, no longer an excuse, but just to give you some context, that also very much opened my eyes to realizing that, coming to terms with my own mortality. And the whole thing about this surgery, and let me please make this blatantly clear, this is not a surgery for people who want to lose a few pounds, to lose 20 or 30 pounds, who want to look a little bit thinner, who are doing it for cosmetic reasons. This is a surgery to save my life, okay? This surgery, and the basis of my decision for getting this surgery, is because I don't want to die at 40 with heart disease. That is why I got this surgery. This surgery is not the solution. This is not a one-stop shop to fix the problem. This is a tool, just like all these other things that I'm going to be doing from here on out are tools. These are tools at my disposal to help me become a healthier person. This surgery is not because I want to lose a couple pounds and look thinner. This surgery is because I've been walking around my entire adult life carrying the weight of 2 grown adults, and that's not okay. And I need to literally slice my weight in half and make myself a healthier person. And I really want to hammer that home, because I think that there are people who want to get the surgery who probably don't really qualify or don't need it, or who think that it's like you just get it and then you're good to go, you lose all this weight and yada yada. That's not how it works. Again, it's just a tool that will greatly help me take all the steps in the right direction. And on top of that, meeting with a nutritionist, changing different habits of my life. And also, I have recently, as of 3 or 4 weeks ago, started talking with my therapist about my relationship with food and just having and gaining an understanding of how I got to this point. Because I always say that understanding how you got somewhere is how you can best prevent yourself from either going back there or going further down that road. So these are all the different steps that I'm taking. I feel great. I genuinely feel incredible. I am so excited, and I've been crying about it this week, just thinking about like how different my life is going to be. There are so many things that I really never talked about, that my quality of life has been hindered by being bigger. Like for example, when I fly on a plane is the only time I get anxiety. And guess what? It has nothing to do with being on a plane. It has nothing to do with being 30,000 feet in the air. That's a cakewalk for me. It has everything to do with wondering if I'm going to be too damn big and bother the person sitting next to me. It's the anxiety of having to ask for a fucking seatbelt extender when I get on a plane. Things like that. And I could point out hundreds of instances of little things like that where my weight, it holds me back socially. It holds me back. It's affected my love life, honestly. It's affected me in so many ways. Luckily, not socially, because for whatever reason, I'm a damn social butterfly. Like it or not, I'll talk to a fucking brick wall all day. So luckily, it hasn't affected that. But it has hindered and depleted my quality of life in so many areas for so long. And that stops today. If you're still sticking around, shout out to you. I don't know that I would have watched the whole thing, to be honest with you, but listen, I really, really appreciate it. To everybody, to the literal hundreds of people that have reached out to me this week, I am just absolutely overwhelmed with the level of support that I have. It's because of that. It's because of my friends and family. It's because of the work that I've put in up to this point that I can say with absolute confidence that I am going to be a different person from this, and I look forward to documenting this along the way. I wish that I had documented stuff up to this point, but I didn't. Again, probably because I felt like it wasn't going to be real until it happened, but it's real. It happened, and I look so forward to bringing you all along for the journey to see the new me. Thank you so much for watching. As always, appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.